February. Just turned February.
And we are totally driving right now.
No, we're sitting on the couch.
Yeah.
So it is February, and we have had lots of snow, and there's a distinct possibility that there will be more before the end of the year.
Have we heard anything on that?
Just that most of the weather people think that the groundhog was wrong.
Oh, well, okay.
So, because of that, and seasonal affective disorder, and just life, we find ourselves kind of going back to our comfort shows, or the thing that we watch that is just nice and easy and a balm, perhaps. We've been binging a lot, House of Dragons and Fargo, the last season of Fargo, but we also have found ourselves kind of bouncing into the comfort show genre for both of us, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
And so what are the shows that you watch if you're feeling anxious or sad or stressed?
I go with my I go back to my animated pack.
Okay.
Family Guy, American Dad, South Park, Futurama, Simpsons on the outside.
Okay.
Those are mine. You and the girls always have these ones that you say, oh, we've watched these 100 times. Those are mine. I've watched those 100 times. I know them, but there's something very, very comforting about them, especially about the episodes I really like. When I was waiting to hear back from grad school years ago, waiting to hear if I got in, Star Trek Deep Space Nine was my happy place.
Okay.
That's what I would watch, and it really helped with the anxiety.
So that's another question I have is it a different show for different feelings?
I'm sorry.
No, well, for example, like if I'm feeling like I want to distract myself, then I will watch The Incredible Dr. Paul. Who is like a country vet show. I think it's on Discovery or Animal Planet.
Which I find that really stressful sometimes.
You do. So that one's for more when I'm wanting to be distracted, but if I'm just having general anxiety or malaise, I tend to lean into my British shows, like either The Great British Bake Off or Call the Midwife. And most recently, All Creatures Great and Small.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting mix of Call the Midwife and Dr. Paul.
Yes, it is. I really liked watching All Creatures Great and Small. I found that one very soothing.
It's something about the pastoral scenes and the British accents.
And the pleasant accents. Yes, they're just very pleasant. I wish I could get more into Call the Midwife. It's too gory for me. and it's one of those shows where it can't be happy.
It can't.
It's like, yay, a character is happy. Oh no, their lover got run over by a bus and has amnesia. It's like, Jesus.
Yeah.
Let us have hope and joy, please, Grandpa Borgnine.
No. But no, I that one I really I love Call the Midwife. I'll go back into it at any season. I prefer season 3 on, but I really do go back. So do you have different shows for your different needs?
I think so. I can't really put into words, okay, if I'm feeling this, I'll watch this, or if I'm feeling this, I'll watch this. Yeah, but there are times when certain shows hit a certain, I don't know, an emotional cue, and you're just like, that's kind of what I want to feel right now. Like House. House is one of those for me. Ironically, usually when I'm feeling down, or I'm down and I want to feel better.
Then House is
House,
your
yeah,
go-to.
House does it. Yeah, I don't know why, but there it is. Um,
I know when you've had a long, hard day, you tend to lean into Mystery Science Theater.
yeah, Mystery Science Theater, Riff Tracks, those are my like everyday comforts. I usually watch those before going to bed.
Right.
You know, so yeah, those are kind of everyday chill out, relax. Conversely, the animated shows are kind of the opposite. They're the wake up. You know,
Yes.
that's what I watch. That's what I like to watch in the morning.
Yeah.
You know, before going to work.
Yes. Usually while I'm still asleep.
Yeah, well, yes, because you don't know good comedy. So I mean, I live in a house of people who just don't get good comedy.
No,
you know.
the girls like South Park, and the girl, and Bob's Burgers is.
Yeah, Bob's
family.
Burgers is in there. Yeah, that's and the Great North and ones like that. Yeah,
I think that's the Great North. That would put that in a cozy comfort show category, like when you just want to feel good and fuzzy, like a warm fuzzy show. So like I would also put Queer Eye for the Straight Guy.
Okay.
Or Queer Eye, I guess now it's just called Queer Eye. The most recent season, like the new last 8 seasons that they've done on Netflix. To me, it's about celebrating people, especially people who are good people trying to do something good for the world, and make them understand that they're worthy of love and celebration. And so like that would put I would put that in the warm fuzzy category for me.
You know which other ones are comfort shows, and again for kind of down times or whatever. Frasier
Okay.
and Wings.
Okay, why?
Because those shows for me are a great blend of comedy and real emotion. Like they're funny, but when they need to be serious or when there's actually something they're talking about, they don't make a joke of it. Like, well, we were watching the episode the other day of Wings where Lowell's, the mechanic's mentor, died, and and he was trying to write a eulogy. And there's a lot of funny stuff about the eulogy, and there's some really funny bits. But then at the end, when he's talking about what the guy meant to him, there were no jokes. There were no. It was they let it be real.
Okay.
And I find that, and Frasier especially, just I like that. I like that that duality. I don't know if that's the right word, but
sincerity.
Yeah, sincerity. That's a great one.
Right. Yeah.
Especially because we've talked about this before, especially in the 90s where sincerity was something that was starting to become passé.
Mockable.
Yeah, you couldn't have people sincerely care about each other or have sincere emotions, especially in sitcoms, because that was something to be mocked.
Right. Right, I know. I was just thinking that you were talking about what you like to go to sleep by, or what gets you in the mood to go to sleep, and you had a hard time adjusting to this when we moved in together. But for me, it's Law and Order SVU.
Actually, not as hard a time as you thought.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, like during Christmas, before I moved down here, my dad and I would put on Law and Order, and we would both because it's one of those shows you can put on, you fall asleep, you wake up, and it's like.
Yes. Well, I've seen them so many times. Like, I've seen each episode so many times.
Which is very impressive considering it's a 25 or 24 season long show.
Right.
Like, that's impressive.
I've seen that. It really just does, like, once I hear the beginning of the episode, and I'll, like, okay, start to kind of play it in my head, and then I'll just be out. I'll even if I think you'll find something interesting, I'll be like, oh, this is the one with
Yeah.
this is the one with this person, or
I'm like that with Mystery Science Theater. I've seen like all of those episodes so many times. I know the jokes, and I know the movie, so I don't have to watch it. I can just kind of close my eyes. I can picture it in my head, and then
Right.
I'm gone. Yeah, but yeah, that does happen a couple times with Law and Order, where the episode is deceptively interesting, and I'm just like, okay, I gotta see what happens here. Like, how do they catch this guy? I want to know.
What's funny is when you fall asleep in the middle of one and wake up in the middle of the other, and you're so confused about where this person.
What's worse is when I fall asleep in the middle and wake up and it's still the same episode, but so much weird shit has happened in the interim that it feels like a different. You're like, what? Wait, what's going on?
There's definitely some twisty episodes.
Yeah.
I won't lie. Now another couple of shows that we both love have resurfaced in our house because our kids have like started getting into them.
Mm-hmm.
So like the Doctor Who reboot.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know if the reboot is so much as just a continuation of the series. Yeah.
And then Buffy the Vampire
Slayer. Yeah.
Which of course Joss Whedon is a pig.
Well, yeah, but we don't have to let him ruin our enjoyment of it.
Right.
Just acknowledge he's a pig and let's enjoy.
Yes, we no longer do anything that puts money into Joss Whedon's pocket.
No.
But since we already own the media,
I own the DVDs, so I mean,
so we do, and like it doesn't negate from the good performances
or the good writing or the good storytelling or the good world building
that the characters really did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I enjoy watching Doctor Who, but do you find that like episodes tend to run together?
Oh yeah, big time.
Like
I have to, especially because we binge them.
Yeah.
We have the girls every other week, and so we tend to focus on one show during that week when they're here. And so like I'll sit there and go like, which companion was that? Which doctor was that? So yeah, definitely.
No, yeah. Yeah, that is, but I've noticed that. Like, but that's another thing, kind of in the difference in watching, because I'm somebody that I will watch a show all the way through,
right?
But a lot of times I'm just like, I just want to watch this episode.
Right.
I just want to watch this episode for some reason. This episode I find funny. This episode is going to hit the right chord. I have my favorite episodes. But you guys just can't do that. You have to watch every single one.
Trigger my anxiety. Even like the other day when you started Wings in the middle of season 3, I was like, like.
But then, like, if I start at season 1, you know how long it's going to take to get to that episode that I wanted to see, and no one's going to let me watch it.
That's true.
So I mean, I have to. How do I win here?
You don't. The compromise in this situation is you get to live with us and be part of our family.
Is that what I get out of it? Wow. All right, great.
Are we not worth it? Are we not worth that compromise?
Yes, you're worth it.
We'll talk about this off mic, sir. Anyways, but yeah. Now here is a question that I've been thinking about. Is there a show that is good and that you love but does the opposite of comfort? Let me give you my example.
Okay.
I recently went through both seasons of The Bear.
Yeah.
And then went back and made you watch it with me.
Yeah, which we're enjoying.
And I love it, and I think it is a beautifully shot show and has some amazing character arcs, and I really cannot stop gushing about the show, but it does not comfort me. It leaves me with high levels of anxiety. Like, it triggers anxiety in me. So, but I still love it and think that it's beautiful. Okay? Do you understand what I mean?
I understand what you mean. I am trying to think if there is a show like that for me, and I'm not really coming up with anything that I can think of more movies like that.
Right. Well,
Or
that's
movies that I like, but that I only feel the need to watch maybe once or twice, as opposed to ones I'll rewatch over and over and over again. You know, like I love The Godfather,
okay.
but I'm not one of these people that like I must watch The Godfather every 5 minutes. It's like I watch it maybe once every 3 years.
Citizen Kane.
And yeah, Citizen Kane's another great one. It's like the movie of movies, but it's like you don't come home after a hard day's work and go, I want to pop Citizen Kane into the DVD player and you know really get into it. You know, you got to be in the mood. You know,
Right.
and I'm trying to think. I'm sure there is.
I think it's the same type of character traits that has me watching that and thinking that it's beautiful, even though it triggers anxiety, is the same thing that makes you want to watch a horror movie
Yeah.
and have that like uncomfortable feeling.
Yeah. I'm because I know there is one, and I know the minute we get done recording this, it'll probably jump right into my head. I know there are episodes kind of going back to what we were talking about. There are episodes of shows that I will skip and I won't watch.
Okay.
Because they either like the X-Files. You know, I love the X-Files. But there are certain episodes that just freak me the fuck out, and I won't watch them. I just won't do it. They got, you know, everybody. They deal with everybody's fears, and when they hit yours, it's like, yep, can't watch that.
See, this is another issue we get into sometimes too, is because I'm a completist, not only front to back, but every episode.
Yeah.
And I think the first show we watched together was Star Trek.
Yeah, Deep Space Nine.
And you would be like, oh, we can skip this episode. And I'd be like, no.
Yeah.
And no, we cannot.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta watch it all the way through.
I slipped some past you when we were watching Next Gen.
Yeah.
Like, we started on I showed you like 1 or 2 episodes from season 2. We started on season 3, and I skipped a bunch that were just like forgettable episodes and got you into the good stuff.
Boo.
So, you know, you won't say boo if you saw them.
So another TV show that's like that for me is Black Mirror.
Oh, okay.
Which is meant to make you uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because it's, you know, it's societal observation and conversation and critique. So, like, it's meant to make you uncomfortable, but I still love it. And I would put a lot of the A24 movies in that.
Yeah. Like
Midsummer, Lamb, the Banshees of Inisherin. No Fiofina is the first protocol.
That's the only part of that movie I like.
Like things that make you uncomfortable, but are good. But you have to be in the right mood for them.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Which I think is a good way to segue into the review of the movie that we are.
Yes, which is not an A24 movie.
No, but it is.
It
is one of those movies that I can see wanting to watch again, but it's not going to be one of those. Gotta throw that on. Gotta.
It is definitely a thinking movie with uncomfortable moments.
Yeah.
So, and I think as white people, we're supposed to be uncomfortable because it's supposed to open up the conversation and make us think about that.
Mm-hmm.
So, it also goes to show you and points out the fact that awards are BS.
Yeah.
Golden Globes, Tonys, or maybe not Tonys, but Golden Globes, Oscars, Emmys, they're all BS because neither this nor Iron Claw were nominated for things.
Yes, it was.
Which was?
American Psycho. Not American Psycho.
Oh my God.
American Fiction. It's nominated for Best Picture.
Was it?
Yes.
Let's see. That's how much I pay attention
And
to
I'm
it anymore.
I think Jeffrey Wright might be nominated as well.
Well, good. Okay, maybe
I could
they're
be
not
wrong
all
about
BS
that.
then. Maybe they're
I
not
could
all
be wrong
BS.
about that.
But like the fact, like, yeah, awards are dumb. Anyways,
So when we come back, we will be getting into the conversation and trying to uncover the genius of American fiction.
American Psycho fiction.
Psycho
No, American fiction. American fiction, not American Splendor, not American Pie,
Not American Beauty.
but American fiction. All right.
All right, we'll be back.
Okay, so this was an unplanned little venture. We had just finished watching The Iron Claw,
Yeah,
and
we had to go detox a little bit from it.
went to dinner, and we were discussing what movies from 2023 we had not watched yet, and
That we still wanted to in order to, compile our end of the year list, which is coming before the end of 2024, we promise.
maybe. And we said were talking about American fiction, and it just happened to be playing at a very opportune time, very couple of blocks away.
So we were like, hey, let's go watch this one.
So this is a Jeffrey Wright. Jeffrey Wright movie. Sorry, I keep thinking Jeremy Allen White. Jeffrey Wright movie. It's okay, kind of twisted. All right.
The long and the short of it.
So Jeffrey Wright is a very phenomenal actor.
Oh yeah.
He's been around. Like, I think his first film was in the '90s, Basquiat, but he also was a big theater actor.
Yeah.
And he was in Tony Kushner.
Oh, Angels in America.
Angels in America. He was in the original cast of Angels in America. Phenomenal actor. So this, if you don't know much about this movie, and it's entirely possible you don't, because I don't think it got a whole lot of
I don't know. I actually saw more commercials for it than I've seen for a lot of other films.
Okay.
Which is kind of odd.
So the concept of American fiction is that you have a very literary author, professor type of novelist, who is a person of color, and he's having trouble getting his book published. So as a joke, he writes a novel that is pandering to what white people might consider the black experience. Drug dealers, alcoholics,
absentee fathers, rappers,
right. Police shootings. So he writes this book, and he kind of is trying to make a point to the publishing houses, but the publishing houses don't get it and want to buy his book and give him a lot of money.
And everything he does to kind of kill it just makes it stronger.
Right.
And it becomes this one of these snowball things of something that started out as a joke suddenly takes on a life of its own, and he finds himself getting more notoriety and more success for something that he doesn't believe in
than for any of his books that were
heartfelt or
literary masterpieces.
Yeah. And while that's going on, so that's our main story, but while this is going on, he is also I'm just gonna say he's just living a life.
Right. He's dealing with his mother aging,
coming down with Alzheimer's, his relationship with his brother, his sister suddenly passes away. He
gets into a new relationship later in life. Like,
it's basically just life happening to him.
Right.
And kind of the point that he's proving, or the point that I think it's trying to make, is that his life is not the, as he puts it, is not just being a proud slave or surviving the streets.
Right. So the dichotomy there.
Yeah.
Of you've got the story that is selling, that is the quote unquote black experience of the poor black man, absentee father, drug addict, whatnot, and his experience as a middle class black man whose life has its own tragedies and sadness and hardships. It's just not the same as what's in his book.
It's not what has become the recognized popular culture interpretation of
The quote-unquote black experience.
yes.
So there's so many interesting bites. And keep in mind that this is coming from two people who...
Two white people.
Yes.
So you are getting the white take on this
Right.
this story, which is a black story.
So I would highly encourage you to go, before you, don't take our word as the end all be all, but actually perhaps listen to somebody. I believe Code Switch did a podcast on it. I believe that there was an interview on Fresh Air about it. I would encourage you to search out the thoughts of people of color on this movie.
About a person of color.
Exactly.
About the life of a person of color.
Right.
So yes, definitely, we're coming at this from our perspective, but this is one of those things where I think you should seek out the opinions of people of whose perspective it is trying to represent.
There we go. Okay, as a white dude, is this something that you may have thought of before? The idea of books like this, is it pandering? Is it, putting someone in a pigeonhole? Is a book like that, like the book that he writes as a joke, is that problematic?
I don't know. It is so hard to say, because you're dealing with, in anything, and I think the movie makes this point as well, in any art form, book, music, movie, TV, the thing that we always have to understand is that it is the entertainment business. They are there. The entertainment business is not interested in changing lives. They are interested in making money.
Right.
And where a lot of artists tend to butt heads is this feeling like, oh, we're trying to create an art, and the business side of it saying, and we're trying to make money, which is what all of this started as.
Right.
So, I can only think of it from I can't tell you from a black perspective clearly, but okay, let me see if I can make this point. I feel that books where all Italians are portrayed as mobsters,
Okay.
I feel that is harmful.
Okay.
That philosophy that's all Italian and Italian Americans have contributed to society.
Okay.
Same thing with being Irish, with being part Irish. I find the idea that all the Irish just go around and drink their booze, and they get into the bar fights, and all that's all we contributed to society. I think those are harmful.
Okay, but here's my question: do they still have a place?
I think they do have a place, because you would be lying if you said that wasn't part of the experience.
But the problem is making sure that that's not the only experience that's represented.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I think that is the conflict that comes up in this movie.
Right. Well, and then the question is, too, if you are if you are writing about an experience but nobody is buying it, like, does it matter? Like, does that representation count?
I think it matters, but the question, and this is what the movie again kind of realizes, it matters. It's just, are you going to make a living? You know, if you're trying to do it and make money and survive, then yeah, then maybe that doesn't matter because no one's going to buy it.
Well,
But
and
if-
does it matter to society? Because if that representation that's supposed to be showing that that's not the whole story, that's only part of the story, that's only part of the experience, if that's never being read, then does it serve any purpose?
I can't answer that. You know, this is the snake eating its own tail that that the Jeffrey Wright character is constantly chasing.
Right.
You know, to me, just going from the perspective of an audience member watching this movie and thinking, you know, if it was me in that position, I tend to go with we talked about it with Peter Dinklage in the Hunger Games review, go with the opinion of it, if writing this tripe is going to get you the money you need to survive so you can write the things that you really care about, then you give them the tripe and then you use that money to support yourself while you write the things you really care about. You can self-publish. You can go to smaller publishing companies. If you're more concerned with the art than with making money, there are ways you can do that.
Okay, but is it the job of artists to open conversations? Is it the job of artists to expose society to a deeper experience? Or is it just the job of artists to entertain and provide a service?
It depends on what kind of artist you want to be. No, I'm serious. That's the thing, is that it depends on the artist that you want to be. If you want to be the artist that wants to open up these conversations, and you know, then that's your job. That's what you do. That's the art you create. If you want to be an artist who said, I'm gonna use a very broad paintbrush here. So you want to be like one of my favorite bands, Bowling for Soup, which just basically says we want to have a good time and sing happier songs than what a lot of rock and roll does, then that's fine. That's your art. I think the problem, and this movie addresses it, is painting all artists with one brush.
Yeah, that's kind of the moral to the moralless story, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think it does make a good point. First of all, that while it's not the entire Black experience, for some people it is part of the Black experience. For some people it's part of the white experience. You know, I know plenty of people who were white and grew up in poverty and were chased by the police and ended up in jail. You know, so I think that I think that you can't ignore that it is part of the experience as a whole. But I think that the most important point that this movie makes is that there is no definitive answer to the question. You know?
Mm-hmm.
There's no right way to do it.
Yeah.
But it is our job as white people to open up ourselves to the conversation and to being exposed to more than just what is handed to us on a silver platter. You know? Okay, let's talk about performances. I was happy to see Erica Alexander in this.
Me too. I loved her in Living Single.
Yes, you are a big Living Single.
I am. I think Living Single was one of the best, most underrated sitcoms of the 90s.
Yep. And another Black sitcom from the 90s, Girlfriends, Tracy Ellis Ross is in this as well.
Mm-hmm.
And Sterling K. Brown is in this as his brother Cliff. movie did, I think, a really good job.
Yeah.
I think a really good performance. And how did Jeffrey Wright do?
It's Jeffrey Wright. I mean, it's Jeffrey freaking Wright. I mean, he's brilliant for a reason.
Right.
You know, he knows. This is not I would say this is a dramedy. It's a drama, but with comic elements.
Right.
And I think there are such levels to the humor he plays.
Right.
In this that and matched equally by the drama and the pathos that he's, the conflicts that he's going through. I can't describe the performance because it's indescribable. You have to kind of see it and just marvel. And like any great performer, it looks so effortless.
Yeah.
He doesn't look at any moment like he's quote unquote acting.
No, it's very natural. He's a very natural actor. The name of the actress who plays his mom is slipping my mind, but she did a wonderful job.
Yeah.
Playing someone whose mind is slipping from her. And there's a sweet side story with the housekeeper.
Their housekeeper Lorraine.
And her kind of falling in love with an older police officer.
Yeah. And I think this goes back to, we talked about it with the Iron Claw last time, or this time, because we're recording this on the same day, that it felt like a family. These felt like real people having real relationships and real connection. You felt it in there. Like for example, with his brother, they had a rough relationship.
Right.
But you never felt like they were mad at each other, that they hated each other. It's like they had arguments and disagreements, and they're both going through shit. But you can tell that they love each other.
Right.
And that, they want to be closer. It's just, it's hard.
Right. And that's what's interesting in this, like, just to go back to the writing and the story, is the connection. Like, his life is tragic at the moment.
Yes.
Like, he's dealing with a lot of loss and a lot of tragedy and a lot of rejection and a lot of sadness. And it's not, like I said, not the same kind that his character in his book is dealing with, but it's its own tragedy. It's its own kind of tragedy.
Yeah.
Anyways, I just thought it was really beautifully done.
It was. I always love it when they do this in a writing movie or a movie about writers. I love when he's actually sitting down to write, and the scene that he's writing is happening kind of in front of him.
Yeah.
And Keith David, the great Keith David, is playing like the stereotypical alcoholic absentee father. And I don't know who was playing the
I forget.
And they're just like, they're going off and they're using the N-word, and then they're like, look at him like, so what do I say now?
Yeah.
And like when the son shoots the father, and he's like, why did you have him do that? I thought that was just very fun. And like this is a smart movie.
It is. And I should have known when Issa Rae was in it that it was going to be a smart movie. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, you can tell from the beginning that it's going to be a smart movie.
Yes.
It's the visuals, the credits, like, it all is kind of hand in hand.
But I think it's important to underline, because and they make this point in the movie too, is that people feel scared of smart things. This is smart. It's not pretentious.
No, actually, it kind of calls itself out of being pretentious.
Yes. And I think that's a big difference. This is a film that does not talk down to you, but it makes its point. It makes its point really in clever ways. But I never felt like it was up on a soapbox.
No.
No.
Never
Never felt. And I also have to say this, because this is my own hang up as a white person. In a lot of movies like this where they're underlining the stupidity or the I don't know what the word is, cluelessness of white people to the black experience, I feel sometimes they make the white characters overly stupid. And I don't feel like they did that. I think they were dumb, and they weren't getting the joke.
These weren't stupid people, because they're people who are in the literary circle, but they are people who are not realizing what they are contributing to the state of race.
Yes.
Which I think a lot of us are. Like, I know I have to constantly re-examine how I think of things, or how my experience differs from others. You know, when constantly, like, it's a moving, changing thing all the time. You always have to be kind of updating and rebooting the way you think about things. So, because I guess having read things like Push, or, you know, the books like this, I guess I never really thought about it as pigeonholing the black experience. But if, like you said, if it was a book about a Roma person who was just constantly belly dancing and stealing from people, I would be upset about that.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing I can say about it. It's a smart movie, but not pretentious.
So I think that what this movie did, and the point of it, and I could be wrong, once again.
We're also this is true drive home reviews, so we haven't had a lot of time to marinate on
No,
it.
we just walked out of the theater like a half hour ago.
So,
but I think that part of the mission of this was to open the conversation. You know, like he says that, you know, the Jeffrey Wright character Monk says, you know, I'm not going to spoon feed you the moral. There's no moral to the story, but I think it is a conversation.
yeah.
It's to get people to talk about how we consume things. And
Well, and one of the first questions you asked me when we walked out is, who do you think is right? Because there's this other black author that kind of is the catalyst for his.
right.
And she's a very well-spoken, well-educated person. And she reads an excerpt from her book. She's like, where dat? I ask, and who, you know, and
Yeah, it's written in syntax, and it's kind of the kind of book that his book was mocking. But she also says, you know, like, from her point of view, she's like, I took this from interviews. Some of this was verbatim from what people told me when I did research for it.
yeah.
You know?
So, and you asked me, like, well, who do you think is right? And the question is, I don't think there is a right.
No.
I think that's a hard thing. We're used to, especially in movies and art, we're used to being told this is
the good guy, this is the bad guy.
this is the moral of the story. This is what you take away. This is the point we're trying to make. And I think having the point be that there's not a clear answer, and you just kind of have to take it and make the best decision you can based on your own feelings. That's hard sometimes.
Right.
You know, and I like how it even calls it out in Hollywood, because at the end he's pitching the story of this life to a director who's just like, well, you can't end it like that, and he gives him all these other endings of like ending it like a romantic comedy, or ending with like the cops busting in and shooting him.
Right.
You know, and the guy's like, yes, that's perfect, and you're just like, ugh.
But I think, oh gosh, I had to stop at a stop sign and I totally lost my train of thought. But yeah, having the one, sorry, that one point, there's 5 writers in a room.
Sounds like the start of a joke.
I know. 3 of them are white, 2 of them are black, and they're, you know, the two black authors are on one side of the table and the three white are on the other side of the table. And one of the white, they're disagreeing. The black authors are disagreeing with the white authors, and the white authors are like, no, we're right. And I think it's just really important we listen to black voices at this time.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
They were literally not listening to the black voices in the room.
Yeah.
Which is, a mistake that happens quite frequently, not listening to the black voices in the room. Which, we live in a very white area, but there are people of color, and I will tell you flat out, I feel like they do not get heard
No.
in this area. They are not being heard. So
GPS signal lost.
oh, thank you.
So thank you, GPS. That was your take on they were lost. The
They were
GPS was
lost.
lost at the film. They didn't get it.
I thought this movie was really well shot, well written. I think that the writer actually directed it, so that kind of
It did, yeah.
So
Or he did, I should say it. Sorry.
Jesus.
Sorry.
So what do you think?
I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it. Ironically, I feel like I would classify this as a feel-good movie. Like, I know that's so weird, but I left the theater feeling really good
Yeah.
after watching this film. I mean, it's not like a stand-up and cheer, King's Speech, Rocky kind of thing, but I don't know. I think just the comedy of what he was going through, the beautifulness of his life and the tragedy of his life. I don't know. It felt very beautiful. It was a beautiful picture.
I agree with you. I definitely agree with you. I don't know, if the movies that we saw today were that beautiful. We just there's something in the air. I don't know, but I do think it was really well done. I think that if you're a person who's not a reader or doesn't necessarily like kind of artsy movies, you probably maybe not gonna like this as much. I don't know. It kind of has an artsy feel to it.
It does have an artsy feel, but again, not in a pretentious way.
Right.
Not in the way that, quote unquote independent movies kind of do.
Okay.
And I think I think obviously if you are a reader and you are really clued into the literary world, you'll probably get a lot more out of it. But I think if you pay attention to art of any kind,
Yeah.
performance art, like I said, music, books, TV, movies, I think you'll recognize the point it's trying to make.
Right.
So, okay, so final grade for you for American Fiction.
I think I feel like I get too easy on these movies, but I feel like I gotta give it an A+. I think that it was well written. I think it was well acted. I think it was surprising in some areas. I think I'm going to think about and chew it over. In the future, in the next few days, I'm going to be thinking about this movie and the points that it's making. And it's driving me to make efforts to seek out more voices of people of color. So I gotta give it an A+.
So for 2 weeks in a row and in 2 movies in a row, we are going to agree.
Holy crap!
I also give this one an A+. I think this one was just a beautiful movie. A beautiful movie about life. And it's so complex in its simplicity. That sounds so pretentious, but it really is. It's simple. It's not. Well, I was worried when it was all him going back to his family, because that was a big thing for plays and movies. Independent movies, going back to your dysfunctional family, and there's always the person who's dying, and they're talking like Yoda and giving all this advice, and there's the sibling you didn't agree with, and I was like, oh shit, are we gonna do that? And kinda, but in a much more realistic, much more grounded way. And I agree with you. It gives you a lot to think about. And the best compliment I can give this movie is I want to think about the things that before. I want to watch this movie again.
Okay.
I want to watch this movie again. This is a film I want to see multiple times. And I feel like I can stomach to see it multiple times.
Right.
You know? So I really, really dig it. And I think it needs to be seen.
Plus, now I really want to go to the beach in Boston. I want to go to the Cape.
I know, right?
Like those beach houses.
I
Like,
know,
those
beautiful.
Are gorgeous. Anyways.
So yeah, all right. So there you go.
Did you notice that when he gets to Boston, the thing that signifies that he's in Boston is he's walking out drinking a cup of Dunkin' coffee?
Yes.
Like, we're in Boston now. Here's his Dunkin'. Anyways.
All right. Well, so what a fun kind of double date day at the movie in terms of two movies. I don't know what I'm saying. It's late.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Just tell them goodbye. Say goodnight, Gracie.
good night, Gracie. Thank you for a wonderful day at the movies, my love. Thank you all for listening and coming along with us. And I will just say good night. So as always, drive safe, and we'll see you at the movies.